On the 5, another well-known altercation between Jessica Tarlov and Greg Gutfeld was taking place while the cameras were live. Sharp discussions on immigration, crime, and political accountability have long formed the foundation of their on-air rivalry. However, this argument did not remain standard. Control was lost in real time as the back and forth became personal and the voices became louder. After producers intervened and the cameras stopped, Tarlov was taken off the set. Fox does not overlook anything that crosses a line. After producers were seen practically requesting Jessica Tarlov to leave the stage on television, a heated on-air argument between Fox News co-hosts Greg Gutfeld and Tarlov turned into one of the most talked-about moments on the 5. The altercation took place amid a heated discussion about immigration, presidential leadership, and Donald Trump's comeback to the political limelight. The hosts began the broadcast by talking about Trump's previous immigration comments. Gutfeld contended that Trump's popularity was a result of voters' dissatisfaction with the way certain institutions, such as birthright citizenship and asylum laws, were being used. However, Tarlov disagreed, and she resisted, exposing a distinction between those who were lawfully in the nation and those who were not. Gutfeld's constant interruptions and defense of Trump's leadership style prevented her from even making her argument. In contrast to President Biden's more subdued style, he praised Trump's speed and media engagement. As the two argued more heatedly, Gutfeld cited the polling data to buttress his claim that Trump has demonstrated resounding public support by rolling back Biden-era programs like the DI initiatives, increased enforcement, and transgender participation in sports. However, Tarlov responded right away, questioning the ethical ramifications of majority rule. She cautioned against brutality masquerading as populism. However, the audience instantly laughed at her comments, which probably infuriated her even more. When they began discussing social welfare and workplace culture and Tarlov defended vulnerable Americans, the discussion reached a breaking point. The producers were forced to step in and lead Tarlov away as the straightforward conversation turned into a heated altercation. The show was then abruptly cut to commercial. It's interesting to note that Jessica Tarlov and Greg Gutfeld had previously disagreed strongly on a subject. He's a conservative, while she's a liberal. This results in regular disagreements on a variety of subjects, such as the time they met in person to talk about the notorious Charlie Kirk incident. Co-hosts Tarlov and Gutfeld got into a heated on-air argument on Fox News The 5 in September 2025 as they were talking about the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. Turning Point USA's founder, Kirk, passed away while giving a speech at a gathering, sparking a heated and nearly violent argument. Tarlov, who consistently represents the liberal side at the roundtable, cautioned during the panel against generalizing about political instability. According to her, each claim regarding the case needed to be supported by thorough context and facts. She argued that political instability cannot be solely attributed to one side of the political spectrum by citing other tragic incidents, such as the passing of Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman. Her words were instantly dismissed by Gutfeld. He even stopped Tarlov, stating that the pertinent point was why it appeared that the left was mostly responsible for the violence in recent high-profile cases like that one. Gutfeld angrily told Tarlov, "Don't play that nonsense with me," dismissing the notion of a two-sided debate when she pressed about references to prior occurrences. The conversation soon grew tense. Gutfeld said that Hortman's passing didn't receive the same level of media attention as Kirk's, raising the question of whether many people were even aware of her prior to her passing. Even telling her that the matter was resolved, he dismissed Tarlov's argument. However, that simply exacerbated her annoyance. The fact that the two were at odds once more and publicly arguing over facts during a delicate national moment garnered a lot of attention online. However, they have previously argued over the opposing viewpoint. The two anchors have been debating the idea of considering both perspectives when hosting The 5. However, when they got into a furious argument on abortion laws, another startling confrontation occurred. One of the largest ideological divides in the country now is abortion legislation, which was the subject of a heated on-air argument between Tarlov and Gutfeld on a September 2024 episode of The 5. The discussion began when Gutfeld contended that the abortion issue was no longer a defining national issue in the impending election as President Trump and the Supreme Court had essentially given states back control over abortion regulation. He explicitly stated that abortion is no longer a national concern. Women voters don't have to concentrate only on it as a result. He claimed that local voters now had a greater say in the issue than did presidential politics. Tarlov vehemently disagreed, contesting both the idea and the veracity of Gutfeld's assertions. She cited recent remarks made by Trump as an example. He was open to raising the abortion limit beyond 6 weeks, just like in Florida, but his team later withdrew those comments. Then she questioned, why did Trump change his mind about that? She claimed that Trump's political message and position on reproductive rights were incongruous. As they frequently do when they are at odds, the two of them kept talking over each other and interrupting each other. Tarlov was focusing on practical ramifications and evolving political realities, while Gutfeld was framing the discussion in more general electoral terms. According to Gutfeld, the matter is no longer at the center of national decision-making and is politically scattered. Tarlov, however, maintained that abortion remained firmly ingrained in the political debate due to changing stances and continuous official prohibitions. Over the years, Gutfeld and Tarlov have had several arguments, and occasionally they become overly personal. Tarlov once had her own response to a statement made by Gutfeld that struck too deeply. Fox News co-hosts Gutfeld and Tarlov attracted notice once more on a 2022 episode of The Five when they disagreed about tone and emotion. While talking about Elon Musk's social media posts and the rumors that surrounded Paul Pelosi's attack, the debate started with Tarlov condemning the speed of misinformation and Gutfeld characterizing Musk's remarks as provocative trolling as the panel discussed his deleted tweet in response to a Hillary Clinton article about the incident. "Look at you," Gutfeld said to Tarlov as the back and forth continued. "This is starting to be too personal for you," implying that her response was unduly impacted. Everyone in the audience was stunned and gasped in surprise as soon as he said this. Tarlov retorted right away, claiming that having a louder voice and being fervent about a tale were simply natural and did not indicate emotional excess. However, his claim that she was too sentimental was incorrect because this term frequently has negative implications that cut beyond gender boundaries. "Gutfeld just told a woman that she was too emotional," said Jesse Waters, another co-host. Tarlov raised a playful but clear reminder, "HR watches this," as the banter went on. The other hosts were laughing since she was obviously reminding him of the training and job rules. Gutfeld joked, "Is that a threat?" in response. "Well done." It could have been a lively exchange. However, the scene didn't end like it did when Tarlov was removed from the set. Although many viewers who are accustomed to the back and forth between the two took it for granted, the footage became a widely debated moment when it was widely shared on social media. Everyone is constantly curious about their real-life personalities because they are the most prominent debate opponents on The Five. According to insiders, Tarlov and Gutfeld's real-life relationship involves aspects of respect for one another, professional camaraderie, and even personal support, despite their frequent and heated on-air arguments. Everybody believes that the dramatic verbal fighting on TV represents genuine animosity. However, others who know them well have disclosed a distinct aspect of their relationship off-camera. Tarlov and Gutfeld constantly debate important political topics on TV, ranging from immigration and presidential leadership to the reasons for political unrest. These discussions typically turn heated and elicit strong reactions from the audience. However, they overlook the fact that these conversations are a component of The Five's format, which thrives on ideological conflict between the conservative panelists and the lone liberal voice. According to Tarlov, the nature of the show is similar to discussions individuals have in real life with friends and family who have different opinions. That implies that she doesn't particularly despise Gutfeld or anyone else. They aren't precisely rivals off camera, despite the fact that this doesn't imply that they are close friends. When Tarlov returned to the studio following her father's passing, Gutfeld personally offered her support and heartfelt sympathies, reassuring her of the team's support during a trying period and urging her to take her time. Given that they are constantly involved in contentious discussions on television, this is very different from what you would anticipate. Insiders and colleagues have disclosed that, despite their on-screen arguments, the five panelists typically need to get along in order to preserve the show's chemistry. Although the relationship between Tarlov and Gutfeld has been discussed, It is constantly pointed out that their intense sparring during arguments is a part of the show's professional dynamic and not a sign of personal animosity. Additionally, Gutfeld has stated that he and Jesse Waters truly enjoy Tarlov and that, despite his occasional outbursts of rage, this is just part of their on-air dynamic. Additionally, he stated that their feelings are reciprocated. As a conservative host, Tarlov is viewed by Fox News viewers as a liberal counterpoint. The two have made a public reconciliation on-air despite significant on-air outbursts, including the contentious September 2025 debate about political violence. Tarlov added that she wasn't upset with Gutfeld, who later apologized for raising his voice during the debate and claimed that the topic was personal. This is only one instance of their friendly backstage conduct and encouraging gestures, displaying a professional relationship that, without truly expressing personal hostility, makes their arguments quite persuasive. Interestingly, though, there are other rivalries that you can learn about on Fox News. Many people pay attention to the rivalry between Gutfeld and Brian Kilmeade, which you may have also observed if you watch a lot of Fox News. Another rivalry exists between Brian Kilmeade and Greg Gutfeld. This has emerged as one of Fox News' most discussed dynamics. However, rather than genuine hostility, it's a complicated blend of on-air banter, various styles, and self-aware humor. Gutfeld, the host of Gutfeld and co-host of The Five, is renowned for his aggressive, sarcastic, and irreverent style. It is therefore not surprising that he so irritated Tarlov that Fox producers ordered her to leave. Kilmeade, one of Fox and Friends' primary hosts, approaches broadcast journalism in a more conventional, earnest manner. They have engaged in a number of verbal altercations on television due to their disparate styles and tones, interspersed with interruptions, jokes, and incisive commentary that highlights their divergent personalities. Kilmeade's stern analysis is occasionally interrupted or undermined by Gutfeld's humor. This is particularly noticeable during panel discussions when Gutfeld's sharp wit challenges Kilmeade's delivery. Gutfeld's remark that Fox and Friends might as well be supporting Kilmeade was one noteworthy instance. It elicited a lot of audience response and highlighted the conflict between the two. Both hosts have acknowledged that a lot of these on-air interactions are staged for amusement, despite the fact that they appear tense or competitive. During an occasion where they talked about Gutfeld's book, Kilmeade smiled and said that if people weren't obsessed with someone, they would worry, to which Gutfeld retorted cynically. The fact that Kilmeade went on to say that the jokes didn't truly irritate him suggests that the rivalry is generally amicable. Behind the scenes, Kilmeade and Gutfeld get along well and support one another. However, there are other competitors besides Gutfeld. Jesse Waters, a Fox News anchor who is genuinely close to Gutfeld, is one of Tarlov's many rivals. Jessica Tarlov and Jesse Waters have engaged in a number of contentious on-air arguments on The Five that highlight both the show's strongly held viewpoints and their wider ideological differences. Many people have taken notice of the strong language and obvious tension that characterize their conversations. During a debate on immigration policy, one of the most notable exchanges occurred when Waters reaffirmed his tough-line position that they are illegal, Jessica, by citing the numerous unauthorized immigrants who have not been found guilty of any crimes. Tarlov was compelled to refute his framing. It began as a discussion about policy, but soon devolved into insults. At one point, Tarlov retaliated sharply to Waters' way of life by demanding, "Who's going to do your manicure?" The producers were indicating for a cut as their voices grew louder due to the intensity of their debate. They had to end the argument since it had become personal. They have also clashed in various ways. Tarlov raised her voice and questioned his doubts about vaccination eligibility regulations when they were debating access to the COVID-19 vaccine under Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., accusing Waters of not adequately preparing for the conversation. To whom Waters then asked for more details. Who is unable to receive a COVID-19 vaccine? And Tarlov's forceful reply demonstrated the annoyance and candor of their exchanges. In addition to immigration and public health, the two have sparred in other situations, such as discussions where Tarlov's policy arguments have been met with sarcasm or mocking insults from Waters. This dynamic has caused viewers on the internet to respond angrily. Tarlov has also engaged in numerous on-screen altercations with other Fox News anchors, such as Janine Pirro. Tarlov and Jeanine Pirro's interaction on The Five has been characterized by heated on-air confrontations that frequently push the program to its limit due to their stark ideological disagreements and disparate communication skills. One of their arguments took place during a discussion of immigration law, where Tarlov and Pirro publicly differed on the meaning of legal asylum and enforcement in general. Tarlov questioned Pirro on whether arriving by illegal means could be regarded as refuge, arguing that due process must be upheld under U.S. law. Pirro became certain that the only due process she favored was legal admission as a result. This resulted in a back and forth that exposed the two's intense disagreement. Early in 2025, during a part concerning the New Orleans automobile incident, there was another noteworthy exchange. By emphasizing that the offender was an American citizen and not an illegal immigrant, Tarlov contested Pirro's interpretation of the event and charged Republicans with distorting the story to highlight border instability. Pirro vehemently objected, stating that she was not claiming to be an immigrant, and asserting that there was still a significant risk of crime associated with illegal immigration. As both speakers corrected and interrupted one another, the conversation became heated. Insiders at Fox News claimed that they once had a dispute so heated that the production staff had to step in. These accounts state that Pirro tried to finish her statements without interruption while both hosts shouted loudly over each other, and Tarlov's refusal to compromise. The producers, worried that decorum was eroding, cut straight to the commercial. Tarlov was conspicuously absent from the set when the show restarted, an unexpected development that fueled viewer conjecture. Juan Williams and Jeanine Pirro, two Fox News anchors who have also argued loudly on television, have a startling rivalry. Juan Williams and Jeanine Pirro have had some of the most heated on-air arguments on Fox News panel discussion show The Five, especially amid debates surrounding Donald Trump's impeachment process. Although they are not personally hostile, they have frequently argued on live television and are prime instances of how heated political discussion programs can degenerate into heated arguments. During coverage of the impeachment investigation, Williams, who is well known for being the liberal voice on the panel, cited ABC News Ipsos poll, which revealed that most Americans believe Trump's request for a foreign leader to look into a political rival was incorrect. This was one of the most prominent confrontations. Right away, Pirro, a conservative former judge and ardent Trump supporter, disputed his interpretation. Impeachment, she claimed, was being used by Democrats as a bunch of hogwash. A lot of phone calls, a lot of hearsay, dismissing the procedures, and criticizing the opposition's approach. The conversation quickly heated up as Williams kept bringing up the poll and urging people to listen to the impeachment hearings. For about 30 seconds, the two hosts yelled over one another, with Pirro yelling, "Don't tell me to stop. I'm a judge." Williams shot back, saying, "You should know better for a judge." Then Pirro shouted, "Don't go there. Avoid going there." The yelling match became so heated that Waters and the other co-hosts finally broke the tension by guiding the program back toward the larger discussion. Media sources have highlighted the contentious exchange as a significant scandal. Actually, a defining characteristic of The Five's dynamic is the frequent on-air arguments amongst co-hosts. Viewers and other media have reacted strongly to it, particularly when Fox producers removed Jessica Tarlov from the set following the violent altercation with Greg Gutfeld. Robust disagreement is practically guaranteed by the show's style, which purposefully blends ideological viewpoints, mixing conservative commentators like Greg Gutfeld, Jesse Waters, and Jeanine Pirro with liberal voices like Jessica Tarlov and Juan Williams. Loud voices and numerous interruptions as participants attempt to defend wildly disparate political opinions. These arguments frequently turn into furious arguments throughout episodes. This pattern was demonstrated in a recent gun control debate when Juan Williams advocated for expanding mental health resources and closing loopholes. Co-hosts Waters and Gutfeld interrupted him several times, refuting his claims and questioning his framing. This causes fast back-and-forth crosstalk. Media analysts have identified 5 cable news programs with some of the most intensely fought panel debates of the year due to the frequency and severity of these conflicts, particularly in the wake of significant national events and political flashpoints. One well-known instance was when Tarlov and Gutfeld got into a heated argument over Charlie Kirk's murder. Nonetheless, a lot of people claim that The Five's allure stems from these ongoing conflicts. The show thrives on the clash of opposing viewpoints and spirited discussion that keeps viewers interested. They constantly interrupt one another and contest one another's facts. After all, Tarlov and Gutfeld have been at odds for years. Their antagonism isn't something that began in a single instance. Which side do you support? Please share your opinions in the comments section. We appreciate you watching this video, and we hope to see you in the next one.